Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
20 biggest cultural differences for Americans in Europe. So we did the first part, this is the part 2.
Smoking is more common and more socially acceptable in Europe, period. Hands down. Growing up in the US, we have the DARE program, which I went through, where we were taught in 5th grade that drugs are bad and that we can't smoke and it's going to kill us. Yeah, looking back, it may have been a little bit extreme, those classes, but they really drilled into your head how bad smoking is for your health. And it's true. In my opinion,
to smoke or do drugs, because I remember they used to pass out shirts. They had people come and show all the things that are bad and how you could get a hole in your throat. It was very scary.
In Europe, smoking is more of like a fashion trend. It's like a cool thing to do, and it's almost like if you're sitting with a group of friends and they offer you a cigarette, you almost have to say yes as like a cultural thing. I don't know how else to explain it. Other countries in Asia and Africa and the Middle East are similar in that regard. But I just find it really interesting how people here just smoke, and they smoke, and they smoke, and they smell like smoke all day. At some point, it just becomes a lifestyle. In almost all indoor places in the U.S., aside from maybe
in
casinos,
Europe, do you never
smoking...
hear that it's bad? Ever? Like
You do.
You do? Like they
put on the packaging, it says, oh, it kills lung cancer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, it's an addiction. People get addicted, they don't care.
Because here, it went as far to the government having regulations on that. I wonder if in Europe, on cigarettes being promoted, and who are they promoted to? Like, you can't have, like, cigarette promotions to kids or anything like that. And then you also have to show the effects. Like, they literally have to show, like, what happens to the body and people who have illnesses from
I don't know,
cigarette
like,
smoking.
you know, for a fact, exactly how it is now, but I do know,
like in school, did someone come to you guys and tell you the dangers of smoking?
I don't remember. But on the packaging, it says, like, there's a heavy tax on cigarettes too, to make them more expensive. They do take a lot of measures for anti-smoking. It doesn't seem to work. Well, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I don't know how the rates. You have to look at the stats.
Because you don't smoke.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Would you say in Europe? Would you say you have a lot of friends who smoke?
Yeah, smoking was popular when I was in high school. As he said, it was a cool thing to do, so everybody smoked because it was cool. And you know, you do it to be cool, and you get addicted, and then you know, you kind of struggle to quit. So, you know,
it is now banned and prohibited. You cannot do it inside. Whereas in Europe, even here,
I feel like here in the States was like that too. Like in the 50s, 60s, the Marlboro man, it was cool. It's just somehow at some point the government managed to make it uncool. I don't know if
they drill a lot of programs. Like I was one of the kids that grew up in those programs where you have people who come in, they show you the dangers, you see the pictures, and they were so very, very vulgar.
Yeah, I don't know. In Europe, maybe it's becoming uncool too. I don't know, you know. But when I was living, you know, it was definitely smoking. Yeah, it was a big thing.
Bars and restaurants that you can
I would say, again, I don't know how it is in Europe, but here weed smoking is way more popular than regular smoking. Now weed is super popular.
They just light up a cigarette inside. It's really, really interesting. Here in Europe, you can also find cigarette vending machines. How wild is that? In the US, you can find anti-smoking ads, and just to be honest, smoking is just scrutinized across the board. However, when it comes to vaping, the US might have Europe beat. I'm going to open up this chapter on an emotional beat.
Yeah, I think as he said, it's looked down upon smoking here. I don't know how it is in you, but here, like, you see someone smoking, like, oh, smoker. Like, you look at them negatively, you know.
But with weed and everything, it's like they look at the health benefits. It has like a glamorized
I agree. Weed is over glamorized too. Yeah, like they only focus on whatever the properties positive they have, but not the negative. I agree.
Now vaping, they're trying to put it a category into like cigarette smoking too as well, because there was a major lawsuit. And it's trying to discourage companies from selling products, vape products.
Standing right in front of Namaste Mirror Church, where I lived and studied abroad in 2012, right down that street. This place has always been a home for me, and if it wasn't for Prague at this exact spot, then I wouldn't be here doing what I do today. A lot of my love for Europe stems from the beautiful history and the old streets. Look at these cobblestones that I'm walking on. Look up to the right. As an American, it is so cool and special that Europe is so old, and we have all these beautiful churches, historical monuments, buildings like this with gargoyles on top. Like, we don't have anything that looks remotely similar to this in the U.S., and everything in the U.S. is new. It's just so charming to walk around and experience and see these beautiful buildings on every single corner. It's freaking awesome.
I love the detail. It's
You know, those details had purpose. It's not just for fashion, for beauty. It's to like ward off like bad spirits, bad vibes.
Beautiful than others like Prague, Paris, Madrid, Budapest, Bucharest, Romania. I find these places to be some of the most beautiful. Spectacular view. The architecture in Prague is outstanding. Everywhere. Gives me goosebumps. Man, just walking around Europe is like a freaking museum. We're in the Colosseum.
That's cool.
Every corner, everywhere you go. These buildings are like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. In the US, we do have some old cities like New York, Boston on the East Coast, which are a few hundred years old. But we ain't got nothing on European cities. Castles, cathedrals, and ancient ruins are preserved and integrated.
I think the difference would be probably in Europe, architecture is more impressive. Here in the States, is nature more impressive. I would say that. Because there is a lot of very interesting nature, like the Grand Canyon, the Rockies, the Yosemite, a lot of national parks. I would say so. Here would be like the nature if you want to see like places to see. Basically, here I would say in the States would be nature, in Europe would be more so the architecture, the history.
I wonder in Europe if they build like new buildings, because I wouldn't think that they would build like new modern tall buildings like what people would live in.
They do, but I think they have a separate like areas for them. They don't build them in downtown, like not downtown, the old town. They're not gonna put up a skyscraper in the old town. It's just not gonna happen. They probably, what they call it, business district. They kind of dedicate that area for all the new stuff, and they build that there.
Modern life, with governments designating money to maintain these sites. This is the Temple of Juno, which is a Greek temple that was made in the 5th century BC. It's just absolutely incredible. Can you find anything like this in America?
Not even close. I don't think anywhere in the world you could find something like this. Incredible.
In big American cities, you see a lot of skyscrapers and new things. But in Europe, skyscrapers are almost looked down upon. You want to keep things traditional. You don't want buildings to go above that height. All in all, when it comes to history and beautiful buildings, Europe 1, USA 0.
It's such a different world than ours, but I love both.
The USA thrives on big food portions and unhealthy nutrition. I take huge size, Grandma.
You ordering some like popcorn? Look, we have 3 bags.
I looked in the small.
If you ever go to eat food in the US, you'll find a massive plate with a lot of calories on it. And it's kind of gross. I just think about IHOP or any like American diner, and you sit down and you order something, and it's just a lot going on. And to be honest, it's reflected in the people's health. A lot of America is overweight. Go outside of any big city in the country, and you'll see people that are very, very large, which is unfortunate and sad. Europe, on the other hand, is clean and petite.
It's interesting. He said go outside of a big city. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe not all these big people live like outside of cities. Because living in a city, you look regular people. They don't look like, we don't really see like that many obese. Yeah, you see one person here and there, but as I've been saying throughout the reaction, Europe is not that far off. However, I haven't like been to like a small town in the middle of Alabama, for example. Maybe that's where the all the obese people are super popular. Less activities to do, kind of more sitting at home. That maybe that's an interesting point.
I wonder if it's also partially because of vanity purposes, because people in the city, they have to go and be seen, go to business, and people
keep up appearances, right? Yeah.
In a small town, it's not necessarily to keep up your appearance. Your intent is to have maybe the way to do these activities out in the fields or in the small town to like grow crops and whatnot. Your focus is not really what people, how they see you.
Well, nah, but you describe farmers, they work physical labor. I don't think they're fat. I think.
Yeah, but they're not trying to have abs. They're not trying to like do like operations to have their nose like a certain way or anything like that. True, yeah. They're not as superficial.
Nice. And when you eat, you just get a smaller portion of the food. This food is absolutely delicious, fresh. A lot of times the vegetables and ingredients are much fresher and healthier.
I don't get the glamorization of the smaller portions. To me, it's just a way of so money. I always will prefer a larger portion. If you can't eat it, you can take out. I do not get why we're glamorizing, they give out smaller portions. It's good. It's not good. They rip you off. Now, the fresher food, that's a different story. I'm not coming at that. But
the thing is, I feel like they're in like the places where all the tourists goes. I feel like when we saw reactions where people eat not in local spots, they eat like family style, and those portions look different.
Still smaller, still a bit smaller.
No, but it's like more than this.
Oh, well, yeah, this is just, this is the fancy.
This is like snack food. This is not like home cooked.
Yeah.
Like people will tell you when the tourists go to that country, that's not what the locals eat. That's not what the plate presentation looks like.
No, that's true. Just I'm saying, as far as the whole bigger portions, like everybody I know who come here is impressed and happy that the portions are bigger. You get more bang for your buck. Like you gotta have a shitload of money to like, oh, it's okay, let me pay more money for less food. Like who thinks like that?
And directly from the source, not everywhere.
I guess rich people.
I also think like now things are like different because you have like shrinkflation where they can charge as much, but the portion that they give you is a little bit less.
Yeah, but so is less in Europe, I'm sure. It's not just here.
Of course, I'm generalizing a little bit, but I find this to be the case for most places compared to the U.S. And when you think about all this, it kind of makes sense because the fast food culture of the U.S. caters to American lifestyles. We're always on the go. We always have like a quick second just to eat and get out of there. We don't have leisurely time to hang out and relax. Whereas here in Europe, everything is just relaxation time. You want to go to the cafe and chill with your friends. You want to go to the restaurant and hang out. When the weather is nice in Europe, everyone, and I mean everyone, is outside enjoying their lunch, coffee, Aperol spritz. We just sat down amongst many Germans here in the center of Friedenberg. Everyone just enjoying the outdoors behind me. And therefore, you do get finer and healthier quality. Period. This is a topic that I'm actually really passionate about because as I get older, I'm trying to eat healthier. But when I go to the US, it's hard to eat healthy. It's just difficult. But here in Europe...
Not really. It's really not that difficult. It's very simple. You go to a grocery store, you buy healthy foods. This is just...
It's just the choices you have to make. It may be easier choice, supposedly, to choose unhealthy food. But at the end of the day, the individual has the choice.
Yeah, even if you don't want to cook, if you want to eat out, there's healthy eating out options too. I don't know what he's talking about.
Where you go, there's like little cafes on the corner. They're selling salads and non-fried and non-greasy foods, and it just makes it a lot easier to take care of your health.
Especially if he's comparing cities. Yeah, if you go to, like, as we just talked, small town, maybe there's limited options. Maybe, you know, the big chains is the only option. Then it's a little different. But if you're living anywhere in the city, there's plenty of food options, for healthy food options.
Europeans recycle more and they focus more on sustainability. As you can see, where you throw away your trash, there's like different bins for different things.
Yeah.
You see people actually following the rules and putting all the boxes here, all the bottles in here, and here for the trash. Just imagine how much cleaner the world would be if everybody followed Europeans' lead on this.
Is there like a punishment if you put it in the wrong bin?
Probably not. It's in the middle of the city. They're gonna go and CCTV find who? It's just, you know,
that's really
common
good.
sense.
That's really good that people are like ingrained to put it in different.
European countries lead in renewable energy and eco-friendly policies, making these practices just a part of daily life. It's normal for them to do these things. They don't have to go out of their way because it's built into the culture. The city is so clean, even though there's so many.
The only thing is, I hear like people can not pick up their dog poop.
Yeah.
There's amazing ladies that are just cleaning the city all day long. Most European countries have strict rules on single-use plastics, promote reusable items, and have good public transportation that reduces car pollution. Getting on the train here, beautiful old historic town of Prague, gives it all the charm in the world. Green spaces in cities encourage outdoor activities and help improve air quality.
Yeah, I think recycling is something, you know, America could incorporate a little bit more. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't exactly see it because people are kind of selfish. So, but at least they could try to, like, we do have the recyclable, the by Publix, you know, there's 3 bins you could to throw. So we do have that. But like in like the apartments, they could do a little better job with that. Because I don't think it's that hard to put the glass aside, you know. But,
in the US, let's just say that we don't care so much about recycling, and it's really a shame. This might be changing in recent generations, but even myself, growing up, we only recycled like big things, like a cardboard box or a big carton of milk. We didn't actually like collect everything separately and put it in different trash cans. We would just throw a water bottle in the same trash can. We would throw food waste. In the US, I see a lot of people littering and not taking care of the streets. And
that's interesting. The other guy that we did, he said the US is cleaner than Europe.
Depends where you are too.
So yeah, so it's interesting. He's saying completely opposite.
Because this is a big. Look at this country. This is a big country.
Yeah.
It's a big country with.
And that kind of just shows, right? Like anytime, like it varies from region to region, like state to country. You can't make
like Vermont.
You can't make a generalization as US as one, nor as Europe as one. Each European country is very different from one another. The same as American state. Every state is very different from one another.
I can imagine seeing a small town watching this video say, well, we care about our health. We have a mindset that it's about like fitness and whatnot. I can imagine seeing that.
350 million people, you can imagine the massive impact that it has on the world. I will say that some places in the U.S. do put recycling forward, but overall as a society, as a nation, I think we are light years behind Europe. And this might not be a problem for us in today's world, but for our kid generation, it's detrimental.
Recycle, please. We do care about Earth.
Many Americans dress really casually.
But you know
like
what
myself.
I heard too as well? That the recycling is not enough. Like the day-to-day person, their habits is not enough to make a dent to help save the environment. What would help make a dent is the factories, and
Cows,
also
farting
also the celebrities who fly private. And private jets, they put a lot of pollution into the air, in which the day-to-day person, their habits cannot counteract those habits the celebrities have.
Yeah, well, even that's the case doesn't mean you just don't do nothing. Everybody has to do a little part that they can.
Yeah, but it just seems hypocritical when you see, like, for example, one big example they use is Leonardo DiCaprio. He's supposedly the guy who's the face of the environment, helping the environment.
But he flies private.
He flies private.
Yeah. Doesn't help the cause. That's a counter argument right there.
Which I get he has to fly private, but if you want to be the face of the environment, you get to also walk the walk, talk the talk, and do all that.
Yeah, take a bike.
Like yoga shorts right now. A lot of Americans love to rep their universities and their sporting teams, and that's just how we are. Hoodies, regular shoes, socks, shorts. Europeans, on the other hand, are really fancy, and when they dress up to go to dinners and to go out and just
I like that.
Leave their house, even if they go to the grocery store, they just present themselves nicer and they have fancier haircuts and they're more elegant looking. Personally,
do you
I feel
think it's
a
for
bit
what is the purpose in that? Do you think?
Just the societal standard, because people gonna look at you. Like,
is it critical? Like, is like they're gonna judge you or you get treated a different way if you present yourself? Because I remember one lady from I think Croatia, she was saying that depending on how she's dressed, it depends how people treat and receive her.
Outsider in some situations when if I go sit outside on a cafe and everyone's looking nice and I'm just there, like clearly there's an American dude that shows up, but this is usually how they can pick out Americans from the crowd in any city in the world. It's like,
I wonder if that determines how quickly the waiter will help serve you or not.
Well, yeah, but if Americans dress up poorly, but Americans are rich, so if anything, they would get to you quicker, because Americans are on average richer than Europeans.
Yeah, but remember he was having a hard time.
So that's my point. I don't think it matters.
See here, I feel like I stand out wearing my P. Spontaneous shirt. We stumbled upon a wedding, and I don't think we fit in very well. Everyone's dressed super nicely. This is also reflected in the workplace, in the work environment, where in the U.S., a lot of companies are more casual with like jeans and just a regular shirt, whereas in Europe, they take fashion more seriously, and people have to dress up, look nicer, and hey, there's nothing wrong with looking nice. There might be many Americans watching this out there that really like looking nice, and that's awesome. But I'm just saying, overall as a society, Europeans care a lot more about their looks. Random side note, this tower, Zizkov Tower in Prague, is a really awkward looking building.
And also to fit those looks, you have to maintain yourself in a certain way.
Like babies going up and down the side of it right there. Really, really weird and funky. Let's look in this circle, for example. All the houses are really nice and neat. Most of them are just apartments. The buildings are right next to each other. Everything's kind of laid out perfectly nicely. There's plazas, people are reading in the park, sitting in their little chairs. It almost feels like a fake life, like you would see in a movie, like a giant movie set. That's how it feels here in most of Europe. Wow, that is
so cool.
And it's nice. It's nice to hang out, walk around, and sit down. It's freaking beautiful. A lot of the buildings are really old. They've been here for many years, and that's just how they are. This is the lovely Prague Castle, the oldest castle in the entire world. First time in Milan, chilling by the famous Duomo. This really epic-looking old structure. A dream come true trip right here. A lot of times the buildings will have these cool like statues and gargoyles and sculptures like inside of it, just because of the history of Europe is really old and cool. I think that's pretty awesome. One thing that I really don't like about the situation in Europe is that they don't have AC almost anywhere. In Prague, in summer right now, I've been suffering because...
Maybe in Southern Europe it would be more common because it's hotter, but mid-Europe to Northern Europe, I think that would be pretty uncommon to have an AC. You just don't need it, or if you do need this like a month out of the year, it's just financially not exactly feasible.
They just say like, oh, it's only 6 weeks of the year, it's hot, but like it's freaking burning in there. And yes, I sound like a spoiled American right now talking, but it's miserable. Wow, it's so green here. Almost everywhere you go in the U.S., aside from some of the big cities on the East Coast, everything's new. The buildings are new, which means they can be fancier, which means they can have better circulation, air conditioning, insulation, all these things. In the U.S., we love our patios and our decks outside, and we just like to have a room for things. I literally cannot believe how big these houses are. Whereas in Europe, you don't really get that. You might get a little balcony that you can sit outside. Other than that, you're really just confined to a smaller space. In your flat, which is what they call apartments here, they call them flats. We also have huge appliances like dishwashers and washing machines that are really big and nice to use. Also dryers. You cannot find those all over Europe. A lot of times they hang their clothes to dry.
My greatest to the beach, my clothes fall in the street and everyone see my underwear. Wow.
Taller ceilings, things like that. Whereas in Europe, things are a little bit more tighter and condensed because everyone tends to live like in the city center, especially if there's
that's one thing. Because one thing I really, really like is a big kitchen.
general. America, everything's big. Like Texas, things are bigger in Texas.
Big cards in Texas. There's definitely party big in Texas.
Whereas here in Europe, everything's kind of petite.
That's all the water we get. Like if it's a tiny little...
Yeah. In America, it's always like this big. Like my face big.
Which makes sense, because if I have a smaller kitchen, I think I'm going to cook smaller.
Yeah, make less food, because you have to put the food where to put the food.
Europe all the way. It's so nice to say. I can't get over this spot. Fantastic. For some weird reason, America uses the imperial system, which means measuring distance in miles, weight in pounds, and volume in gallons. It's so funny to me because most of the world has no idea what any of this is. Here in Europe and almost everywhere else in the world, they use the metric system. That means covering distances in kilometers, weight in kilograms, and volume in liters. All of these things can be pretty confusing for Americans.
We need to, I think, do conversions. There's a phrase that we have to learn when we're little. Is King Henry doesn't mind drinking chocolate milk. Kilograms, I don't know.
In Europe and vice versa. If you want to be a more worldly citizen, I'm talking to you Americans, you should try to learn the metric system. It's really helpful for travel. And it's also very simple and convenient, based on units of 10, making calculations and conversions much easier. Also, don't forget that in the US, we use Fahrenheit to tell weather.
It's minus 22 degrees. I can't feel my hands or my face.
Right now, it's about 85 degrees Fahrenheit, but in Europe and the rest of the entire world, they use Celsius, or right now it's probably around 30 degrees. Luckily, I know both because I've been traveling the world for 12 years, so it's easier for me to have conversations with non-Americans about things like weather. But this is always something that confuses me about the US, and I think it's just because we like to be bigger and greater and different than everyone else in the world.
Kilo, hecto, deca, deci, centi, milli.
Oh, that's just the...
It's a conversion?
Yeah, the thousands.
Yeah, that's what they taught us. Okay?
In the US, coffee is consumed on the go.
Yeah, I don't know the measurements. It's a difference, but I don't really care for it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, the whole world. I don't know why America uses these metrics. I don't know who decided.
To add another class.
Yeah, but
kids to learn.
it doesn't really matter to me. You get used to it. It's not that big of a deal. As a tourist, it is a big deal. It's weird, but
only when you're cooking is you feel it, because sometimes you see the recipes. And you say your recipes come out better when you're measuring using the metric system.
Not that. No? It's weighing it. You have to weigh it. It's not as metric system, imperial system. Just weigh it. You can weigh it in ounces. You can weigh it in grams. It doesn't matter.
Oh, with people grabbing their morning cups from drive-through places.
Any kind of hot coffee. I'll have a latte.
They're just quickly getting into Starbucks, ordering on the app, and running out. We also pretty much only consume coffee in disposable paper cups. In Europe, it's a whole different story.
So you always wash hands. Let's keep it that way.
It's that bitter taste. Just like goes
I wonder what if we want to take it to go.
They have to go coffee shops, though. It's not unheard of.
Makes you up. I'm serious.
This is like
and to be fair, also I feel like he's focusing on the difference, but there's a lot of similarities too. So like he's focusing on the coffee places that are different.
But we have those here.
They have Starbucks in Europe. They have like in Lithuania Vero Cafe. We just saw the reaction, right? It's kind of like the Lithuanian Starbucks. So they have options. Of course, it's just this is probably more common. 'Cause the same way we do have this type of coffee in the States, you can get a nice little cup. Sit there,
That's
drink.
Nice.
We do have that. It's just not exactly where people go to drink coffee. If you choose to do that, you have the option. And I think that's the biggest benefit of this country is the options, availability. So whatever we see here in Europe, you can find it here in the States too. It just might be less common and it's a little harder to find, but it exists.
Thick cappuccino with the foam top. Look at this.
First bite of the cappuccino has to be with a spoon. The coffee culture is alive and real here, but people take their time when they drink and they see it as more like a social thing. Even if they're by themselves, they'll still go to the street corner, sit down at a cafe outside, of course, enjoying the beautiful day, and get a coffee, and they'll just sit there and either read or work. It's more of like an enjoyable leisure activity. They always have like coffee mugs, so like Europeans don't like waste of plastic and paper. They always just have everything feel more proper and more solidified. And it's all about the experience, of course.
Got the coffee, bringing it out to grandma.
When it comes to breakfast in the US, everything is really heavy and greasy. Think about omelets, think about breakfast burritos, pancakes, hash browns, bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches. These are heavy, heavy, heavy items that make you really full and have a lot of calories.
All the flavors of cheese and beans and egg and sauce on one plate.
In Europe, breakfast is nothing more than a little pastry.
Buttery, flaky, puffy pastry.
Once again, a little generalization for the whole Europe. I do not believe that's how it is in the whole Europe. We have seen that in Italy. I think maybe France is similar, but you definitely can say that, like as we see in the UK, beans on toast, like completely different. Croissants is not like a thing like that. You know, Lithuania is also sandwiches, but different sandwiches. So you It's generalization.
A little cookie or something sweet.
This is everything I want right now. A small espresso and a chocolate croissant. They're so great.
It's so different. And it's funny, like here in Europe, all the breakfast places that you'll go to, like good breakfast places are like American branded. You'll get American breakfast, American sausage, American scrambled eggs. The breakfast is one of the biggest differences that I find between Europe and the US. It's crazy different. In Europe, if it's not a croissant, it's just like a piece of fruit or a little bit of cheese or one slice of bread.
Soft and mushy. Absolutely worth it.
I will say though that the bakeries in Europe are awesome. They're amazing. They actually bake bread fresh every day. And most...
I don't know if I buy it. One slice of toast, like it. Ooh, like I don't.
I mean, you could order more toast, no?
Right, I feel like that's what he's looking at the menu and that's what he's ordered. Like people at home, I do not believe that people at home eat a slice of toast. If you're in a rush and you have to go to work, which kind of contradicts this directly because they say, oh, they sit down and drink. So, but if you're in the rush, okay, I get it. You just eat a piece of food because you gotta go. But if like, I don't know, we always would have like solid breakfast. Like, not like one, I don't know.
Most countries around
Like
Europe.
eggs, omelets, sometimes
So it
pancakes.
smells good on the streets, and you know that you're getting quality bread. It's not like processed. It's not like ordered on a big truck and shipped over. So I definitely side with Europe on this one. Although I got to admit, I do love Starbucks.
Public
This one really makes me
behavior.
feel ashamed to be American in Europe. Why are we so loud and obnoxious? Like, we have to like scream when we're coming out of the bars at night, and we have to like be picking fights in bars and be like, "No, America!" I really don't like this about American culture for whatever it is. I don't know why we always have to be the loud guys and the good guys. I think Brits and Aussies are kind of similar in this regard, but when it comes to Europeans, they're much quieter. Like there could be a lot of people out and about, but they're not like screaming and chanting. They're just like sitting, enjoying their beer, their wine, and just like hanging out. I like that culture.
Thank you, Dr. J.
In general, Europeans are just more reserved, and when you're dining, people just don't talk that loud. They just keep themselves. It's kind of nice. Social gatherings in America are loud.
This again, I believe, varies by country. In this we just saw in Finland, yes, they're very reserved. In Germany, probably more reserved as well, based on what we see. He mentioned Brits are not reserved. I would say Italians probably a little louder. From what we've seen, Greeks are pretty outgoing and loud too. So, you know, you can't make a judgment for the whole Europe.
And energetic. But in Europe, people are more respectful of other people's personal space. I also think the contrast in behavior can be seen in customer service, where American employees are typically more enthusiastic and outgoing, and they kind of won't stop talking to you. It's all that like fake conversation, like, "Hey, how's your day going? Oh, what are you up to today? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, we should hang out later." It's very American to be like fake in that regard. This really drives me crazy about Americans, and when I'm home, I feel really out of my element. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but like going to the grocery store, I don't need to like share my life story with the lady checking out. Like, just check out, you go on with your day, I go on with my day. I don't need to like tell you what my plans are later and how my work is going and all that. Like, Americans see this as being friendly, but for me, I just see it as a pointless conversation that just doesn't need to happen because you don't know that person. If you know them and they're your friend group and circle, it's different. Europeans cut through all that bullshit. Especially staff at a restaurant or anywhere on the street interactions are a lot more formal and blunt, and it could be considered rude, but I don't know, I kind of like it.
Look, the risotto with meat risotto.
Another example is if you're on the train in Europe, people are just going to sit and keep to themselves, kind of like in Asia. But in the US, people might be talking on the phone loudly or hanging out with their bros. And like, I guess for me, I prefer to be more on the quieter side. I don't like to be obnoxious in front of people. I think I get this trait from my mom, who doesn't want to be like the center of negative attention, which is a good thing. But it's definitely a stark difference between how Americans act in public and how Europeans act in public. And this
what
is
he does though, I can
Film everybody in
Yeah, I
public?
was gonna say that.
one of the biggest differences between Europe and the US.
Right, so if you're going to be
I was gonna
considerate of
say
others
that.
being quiet, don't film other people that don't want to be filmed in public.
Yeah.
I definitely side with Europeans on this one. Of course, another disclaimer is not every European, every American is like this. I'm very much generalizing, okay? But this is just what I
We
see
get
and what
it.
I've experienced from spending 2.5 years in Europe. Saving one of the best topics for last because I am a huge sports fan, athlete. I play many sports and I love watching sports. It's a little bit different in America versus Europe. I will say that there are passionate fans, respectively. But of course in Europe, it's all about football, or as we say in the US, soccer. It's super popular here. The Euro Cup just happened. Fans are like crazy,
I feel like
crazy
that's
passionate.
when people get more, a little rowdy because he said everyone is just so quiet. to
Yeah, when it
themselves.
comes
But when
to
it's
sports,
people have their
About
everything
their
at
country,
stake, their
about their inner
energy.
leagues, about football or soccer, all around Europe and the whole world, really. In the US, it's primarily basketball, baseball, American football, emphasis on the American football because that sport is really only played in the US. And of course, like golf and tennis, but these are popular in both places. Sports that are common between the US and Europe are hockey, basketball, tennis, and golf. I think those four sports are really active and played among the average Joe in the countries and also for professionals. Europe also has regional sports like rugby and cricket, which you can find in certain regions, but not all over Europe. Here's a major difference though. In the US, college sports are huge. I went to the University of Wisconsin. We went to 3 Rose Bowls during my college years, which is American football. It's like a big event for those non-Americans out there. We also have really big hockey and we have really big basketball, and we go to March Madness every year. And like, I went to a lot of games as a kid. In fact, I chose Wisconsin because of the sports. That was one of the main reasons I wanted to go to a school with great sports. I'm a passionate sports fan. European sports are like dead. I don't even know if there are competitions of like European basketball or other teams. I actually don't think that exists. If it does exist, please let me know because I've never heard about it. On big college campuses in the US,
I think he's talking exclusively about college competitions. He didn't say college, but they're talking about college. I'm assuming he's also talking about European college, which is true. European college, they don't have like a league like we do here, so that is true. I think it's just about colleges.
Have massive games that are publicly televised to millions of people, and there's a lot of things happening around the stadium. There's tailgating and pre-gaming, and all the restaurants and bars are busy near the stadiums, and it's like a cultural immersion thing when there's a game on a college campus. I will say though, the energy and excitement around any European football match is unparalleled to anything that we can find in the US. I haven't been to many, but I have seen them on TV, and I have many friends who have gone, and I know that the environments are crazy.
Yes.
In Europe, the football teams often have deep historical roots in their communities, which honestly creates a strong sense of identity and pride because these teams have been around for hundreds of years. So it kind of makes sense. In the US, all the big sports are really like big businesses when you think about it, and that's why teams relocate and change names. It's all about the money. In any regard, the cultural importance is clear for sports, whether it's in the US, whether it's in Europe, and I find the way that it's expressed is really, really interesting. All right, and that wraps up.
All right.
Guys, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible.